Now, the factors that affect this readily available water obviously are the first and major factor is the kind of plant we're growing. You know, that is the real key. What are we growing on that particular soil? Value for Pasco fine sandy loam. There's a good one. Pasco fine sandy loam. Its value 0.14 inches per inch. So this would be for a fine sandy loam, which would be pretty typical of what a golf green subsurface is going to be made of. And let's just manage 6 inches of it. How much water do we have total? 84 hundredths. Our multiplier for turf is 50%. We have 42 hundredths of an inch readily available water. Raw, huh? Readily available water. Yes, Chad. That'd be 6 inches. The top 6 inches. We're only going to deal with 6 inches. And that's kind of what you're dealing with on a golf green right there. Okay? So you got that much water. Once you evaporate that much water off, that plant goes into some serious stress. And you know what? It starts to turn a little blue when you walk across. As you can see your footprints and the blades bend over and don't spring back, all that kind of stuff starts to happen to that grass. You can see it visually happen late afternoons on really hot summer days. So we go in and we syringe it. It doesn't take a lot to kick it back up, and then what we do is we have to reapply 42 hundredths of an inch of water that night to regroup what we lost that day. And away we go again, ready for the next day.
You're talking that loss is not just due to evaporation, but also
transpiration, the water going out of the stoma of the plants itself. Now that's the next set, the next unit in this class will be on the plant water use. So we'll get into that in a little more detail as far as the actual physical movement of water in the plants. But that really gives you a real good idea what you're up against in what I would call a pretty critical crop. Probably our most critical crop growing, our golf greens. Now, other factors. Besides the plants that we're growing, we have the profile change, which we saw with that Yakima soil. Radical profile change. So that can have a huge effect on our readily available water. Also, the amount of organic material in the soil. Now, organic material will hold more water. The more organics we have mixed in the profile, the more moisture will be held in that profile. It's not necessarily easy for the plants to pull it away because the organic material has quite a strong attraction to those water particles. Chad?
Turf, would thatch be considered organics?
The question is, would thatch be organic? Absolutely. The only difference in turf is generally that thatch isn't down in the profile itself. It's right up close to the surface. And the problem we run into with thatch is that it's hard for the water to penetrate it. So we oftentimes will have ponding on top of it because it's hard. If that thatch is compacted, water has trouble working through it. And so we get more surface evaporation while the water's sitting on top waiting to try to work its way through. Or if we have sloped ground, we'll get runoff. Yeah.
Is there any way to get that thatch down into the first 6 inches?
How can we get thatch into the first 6 inches? Take Turf 101. Actually 201, turf physiology, you'll get into that. But yes and no. It's, you cannot cultivate, so to speak, turf. We can go in and do aeration processes that certainly improve our ability. We do more of a removal than we do blending. at that point, because we would destroy our playing surface if we tried to blend it into the soil itself. And we really don't necessarily want it. We probably are, our soils are probably developed the way we want them to begin with, where we plant turf. You know, we can, when you're planting turf, it's pretty easy to amend 6 inches of soil. If you're planting orchard, it's hard to amend 5 feet of soil. It's a whole different world. Plus you have the value added in turf where generally there's the money to do it. You're not talking about the millions of acres that you're dealing with in ag versus turf. Other things, fertilizer. Fertilizer tends to tie up water. We get fertilizer in the profile, and that fertilizer is going to tie up some of that water, especially if we put a lot of fertilizer on. We get a situation where it doesn't want to let go of the water. It holds on, it bonds to the water. Those usually inorganic fertilizer are going to do a great job at tying up water for a period of time until the plants start absorbing up some of that fertilizer. And texture is going to have an effect as well. We talked about texture before, how sands don't hold water near as well as silts, and silts don't hold water near as well as clays, just because of the attraction of clay particles toward the water. They're going to hold water in their profile easier. The twist is they don't want to give it up as easy. So not necessarily all of that water is readily available. There's going to be more hygroscopic water in a clay soil than there will be in a sandy soil, because it ain't going to let it go. Interestingly, you can take a soil sample, go put it in an oven and cook it for a day, and pull it back out, and it looks like it's bone dry, but there's still water in there. You'll never get it all cooked out. There's little molecules of water just aren't going to let, those clay particles are not going to let them go. You think it's bone dry, but it isn't. There's still moisture in there. It's amazing how much of osmotic pressure there is within that soil.